Back in the days, video games were very, very simple. Plumber saves princess, yellow circle eats ghosts, inexplicably blue hedgehog saves the world from rotund man. But nowadays, video games have become an established medium of storytelling alongside movies and books that cover a whole spectrum of emotions. We get the highs of beating games and resolving story threads, as well as the lows of character deaths and unhappy endings. And much like any other form of storytelling, we obviously get the cringy middle ground, the awkward bits that make you feel a little bit dirty for playing them. Whether it comes from an included sexy minigame, erotica under the guise of volleyball, or just some good old castration, there's always going to be some parts of some video games that make us squirm uncontrollably. So let's take a look at them. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are video game moments that made everyone uncomfortable. Number 8. Hotline Miami 2 Wrong Number. The simulated sexual assault. Devolver, like Rockstar, has a reputation for publishing some slightly taboo games at times. Again, whether it's a commentary on us as consumers that we actually play them, or that they're being a bit of a dark horse publisher, or both, is undecided. Such was the case with the opening of Hotline Miami 2, the sequel to the already controversially violent first one. So much so that eyebrows were raised and countries were already banning the game before release. Because when you start this game, the introductory mission ends with your player about to force himself on a barely dressed woman. You sit there thinking, do I have to go through with this? Am I watching this? What is going on here? And then the screen zooms in on the act. Thankfully, it is just that, all an act, part of a movie within the game's universe, and the director calls cut before anything sordid takes place. But for that brief moment, players were in that incredibly uncomfortable and horrible territory of wondering if Devolver had really pushed it too far. Number 7. Killer is Dead. Gigolo Mode. Suda51 games are no strangers to weirdness, and Killer 7 was absolutely bananas. Shadows of the Damned had a gun that relied on innuendo, and Lollipop Chainsaw had an achievement/trophy for taking a look up the skirt of the protagonist. But Killer is Dead didn't have a lot of hype behind it, and if sales are anything to go by, this game came and went without a trace. But what it did have was some extremely controversial gigolo missions. Taking the concept of meeting someone in a bar and being nice to them to the extreme, it didn't help that the game encouraged you to complete these 4 rewards. Now, the trick with these for maximum success was to oogle the woman in question's body when she's not looking. This, combined with showering them with gifts, would end up with Mondo sleeping with the lucky, can we call them lucky in this case, recipient of his curious brand of affection. What made this even weirder was a piece of DLC in the form of the X-ray glasses, and these aren't your typical X-ray specs. No. Instead, this let you see through a woman's clothes to see her underwear while she's not aware. Classy. Number 6. Dead or Alive Extreme 2 The Pole Dancing. Now, I'm not going to lie to you here. The hardest part, no pun intended, of this entry is going to be our poor editor's job trying to find the mildest footage to represent this minigame. Because who boy enjoy going through that swamp, my friend. But really, do you need me to point out the ickiness in a Dead or Alive Extreme beach volleyball game? That's like telling you what colour an orange is. We all know by now that these games caught controversy wherever they pop up, constantly flouting the East versus West sensibilities and norms argument against censorship and release. Yet, they still keep making them, and people keep buying them. What made Extreme 2 creepier was the inclusion of a pole dancing minigame that was unlocked. Volleyball has always been the thinly veiled guise of normality in these games, with plenty of other harmless minigames to break up the fun. But pole dancing, you cannot look me in the eye and tell me that this is just a bit of fun. It's clearly a means to show off the various levels of skimp that you can equip the ladies in. And if that's your bag, then no judgment, mate. Fine, different strokes for different folks. But to most other people, this is just a little bit weird. Number 5. Manhunt, the gratification in your ear. Manhunt, Rockstar's 2003 stealth survival title, was always going to be controversial. They knew that when they made it. I mean, come on, it is Rockstar. For a lot of gamers, the violence in there wasn't enough to deter people. Does that imply that we're all desensitized or accepting of violent video games? Who knows? Either way, it didn't stop people from buying it. But what did make players feel a little bit disgusting was the running commentary in your earhole from director Lionel Starkweather. Hearing veteran actor Brian Cox, as in Stryker from X-Men 2 fame, getting pleasure from you carrying out his orders is a weird feeling. Granted, that is a good 70% of the game, but still, ugh.
Oh yeah. Oh man, that was good.
But what made it even weirder though is if you had an Xbox or PlayStation headset plugged in. Now the feature was there to use your own voice to distract guards, but it also channeled Starkweather right into your ear for extra grossness. Could this be Rockstar's meta-narrative portraying the disgusting nature of snuff films, or just them adding something in to mess with us? Knowing them, probably both. Number 4, Silent Hill 2 Pyramid Head's Orgy. Now there's been many a theory about Silent Hill 2 being in James Sunderland's head. If not the town itself, then definitely the enemies, which could be manifestations of James's guilt surrounding his wife's death, as well as his sexual frustrations with her. And that definitely would explain a lot, in a weird, only in Silent Hill kind of logic way at least. So when we discover that Pyramid Head is a form of James's subconsciousness created to punish him for his deeds, which I won't fully spoil, it does make some sense about the unrelenting shaped headed monstrosity. Yet although it may make sense, maybe not until the end or after a few playthroughs and different endings, walking in and seeing Mr. Head doing the dirty with a few other of the mannequin enemies is still a very unnerving sight. It may represent James's sexual frustrations towards his ill wife, given the overall theme of the game, but nobody wants to see whatever is going on here. Now granted, there's no direct sordidness, but it is much more of an implied one. But still, it is all there, laid bare for us to witness. Number 3, Final Fantasy X, the laughing scene. I mean, just play some clips of it, please.
You probably shouldn't laugh anymore.
This makes everyone feel uncomfortable. I know it was intentional. I know that there are staunch defenders of this moment that say that it's meant to be on purpose to show how putting yourself out there can be awkward sometimes, but this, it haunts my soul. My friend had this as a ringtone for a while and used to get people to ring him when we were out because he knew that it would make my spine invert so much that I would nearly snap in half. And now I give this gift to you, but we're gonna move on.
What are you looking at?
We were just worried you guys might have gone crazy.
Number 2, Outlast, the Whistleblower DLC, The Groom. Now here's one that will make your eyes bloody water. You see, Outlast's main game was already a bit tense, considering that you're occasionally being lambasted by some nefarious naked nasties. So much so that it shouldn't have been that much of a surprise in the Whistleblower DLC that it's gonna happen again. But yeah, it's time for another roller coaster. And this one ends with the joyous scene of, well, being castrated. As our protagonist is caught by Eddie, affectionately known as The Groom, we wake to find ourselves strapped to a table. It transpires that Mr. Eddie over here is on the search for a perfect woman. Sadly, the asylum doesn't allow for female fraternizing, so he's had to use his, ingenuity to create his own bride. And by that I mean that he's going to use a big rusty saw on you. Luckily our hero avoids castration, but it's certainly a panic-inducing few minutes. And number 1, The Last of Us, David. Later in The Last of Us, circumstances force us to play as Ellie as she hunts for supplies to keep a wounded Joel alive. Unfortunately, she gets trapped by what turns out to be a bunch of cannibals led by David. Now, cannibalism may be a weird one, but it's the end of the world. I mean, people have got to do what they can to survive, right? I mean, dog eat dog, quite literally in this case. But no, there's more than that, because Davey is a creepy man whose attitude towards Ellie when she's trapped in a cage will make you feel more than a bit squeamish. The hand stroking and the insistence that Ellie is so special to them is just... It makes us wonder if they had other designs on Ellie, and not just where the choicest cuts were. Fortunately, we do not get to experience that nightmare, as David gets trumped by Ellie in quite a gross fashion, but the implication was there for all to see. No wonder she wouldn't stop destroying David until Joel intervened. And there we go, my friends. Those were video game moments that made everybody feel uncomfortable. I hope that you enjoyed that, or at least got something from it. Enjoyment doesn't seem the right word, considering some of the context of this video, but still, hope that you got something from it, and let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Twitter at RetroJ, but the O is a 0, or you can go to Instagram, where it's the same handle, RetroJ, but the O is a 0. Hope to see you over there. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. Even even though today we talked about some pretty nasty and disgusting stuff, let's flip that over and be kind and loving to ourselves, because you know what? We are all big ledges and we deserve love, happiness, and success. And do not let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise, alright? There's a lot of grim out there in the real world today, so let's make sure that we're not being too hard on ourselves in our own personal time. You are a massive ledge, my friend. Now go out there and absolutely smash it. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye.